Okay, let's get started. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Jessica. On behalf of Everbridge, I'm excited to present today's webinar, Increasing Opt-in Database and Response Team Coordination with Nixle. In this webinar, our presenter will discuss and examine growing your subscriber base, using Nixle for media relations, crowd control and event management, use case Laker Parade, crime-specific actions, use case wanted suspect, and internal team coordination. After the presentation, we will have a 15-minute question and answer session with our speaker. As a reminder, you can submit your questions at any time during the webinar. You may send your questions by typing in the open text field in the questions panel and sending your questions to all panelists. If we don't get to your question, I will follow up with you after the webinar. Links to the recording of the webinar and slides from today's presentation will be available on our blog within a few days of today's session. Please also look out for an email from Nixle, which will have the recording of the webinar and the slides. If you're on Twitter, please take a moment and follow us at Nixle and use the hashtag NixleDemo to share questions and thoughts about the webinar. And now I'd like to take a moment and introduce our speaker, Brian Yim. Brian is a senior product specialist and has been with Nixle for 2.5 years. He works primarily with law enforcement agencies in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. He has experience designing Nixle programs to fit agencies of all sizes, from small four-man departments up to large county OEMs. And now I'd like to turn it over to our presenter, Brian.
All right, Jessica, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, very good. Let me go and close this out, open this up, and we should be looking at the agenda. Is that correct, Jessica?
Yep.
Great, thanks, Jess. So again, thank you everybody for attending today. My name is Brian. I have been working with various forms of law enforcement, primarily over the last 2.5 years here at Nixle. More and more, we're finding that law enforcement and municipal entities are working in tandem to better understand this concept of community engagement. We'll really take a deep dive into what that means and how we as a company here at Everbridge Nixle can support you in really building up that community engagement. And the big thing with that is driving opt-in, driving the interest of the community to come to you to hear messages from you. How do we really do that? There isn't one silver bullet that will instantly grow your opt-in base by 50%. But what we do know is that with consistent marketing, smart messaging, good content, you're going to be able to quickly see those numbers increase. One of the agencies that have really followed the recipe that Nixle Everbridge has provided is South Brunswick, New Jersey. And believe it or not, they have upwards of 55% of their residents now opted in to receive their Nixle text and email messages. I'm going to let that soak in for 1 second. 55% of people in one municipality in New Jersey have agreed to hand over their cell phone numbers to an agency to receive messages. That's great. That's huge. So it's our goal that we could slowly introduce these various concepts to you, and you can adopt 1, 2, maybe all of them. And you can slowly see your numbers grow, because no matter how great a system is, if there's no one on the other end to receive your messages, it's not really worth a heck of a lot. So to get started, the key thing with growing your subscriber base is knowing that it's an ongoing process. It's my hope that each and every one of you who's on the call today at least did an initial press release letting the residents know, hey, we're now on Nixle. You should be doing a press release at least once a quarter. Go ahead and every 3 or 4 months, send out a press release. You should have 1 or 2 contacts that you work very closely with. Let them know, hey, we're going to be continuously sending out messages to you, because we want you to get the word out there. Let the residents know to sign up for Nixle. And you always include 1 key indicator around each message, depending on the season. So right before winter, don't forget to sign up for Nixle. Here's how you do it. You're going to receive timely alerts about the weather. Great. During the spring, please sign up for Nixle. Here's how you do it. You're going to be getting a lot of good community messages about municipal activities. Fantastic. So constantly having that stream of dialogue is important. The few key points we'll really focus on, and specifically today, are really focusing on summer activities. It's top of mind right now. We're in July. Most municipalities across the country have a calendar of events right there on the website. That calendar of events is great. It's there for a reason. You're trying to publicize those events. Well, the problem with that is you're really depending on the residents to come to your website to see those events. How about we do a better job of getting it out there? To that end, let's create event-specific activities. Let's use Nixle, and let's really harness this concept of an easy opt-in to better publicize these events. We'll also discuss how after-action reports for specific crimes can really drive an opt-in increase. What most residents sign up for is to receive crime information. So are you doing a good enough job understanding what it is the residents really want, or are you just blindly throwing out information thinking, this is what the residents should want? I think so. Let's do a better job of understanding what it is that the residents really care most about and sending out information that's really appropriate for them. And then what we'll talk also about is really being able to do a better job of cross-platform marketing. These are a handful of the bullet points that we'll really touch on during our conversation today. So first off, Nixle itself is very unique in that we make it as simple as possible for residents to sign up, right? For many other social media platforms, it requires going online, creating a full-blown profile. With Nixle, it's as simple as a keyword or zip code opt-in. So many of you are familiar with the zip code opt-in. Please text 94109 to 888-777. But have you explored using keywords? Keywords make it so much easier for you to build out event-specific groups. The example we cite right here is 4th of July. Many municipalities across the country have 4th of July celebrations. With that celebration, you have an influx of residents, be it your own residents or residents from neighboring communities coming into your downtown, to your main street, to your main drag. Well, what happens if something goes awry that day? And that something could be very minor, as in a basic traffic detour or a parking lot is full, all the way up to those major situations, i.e., a child goes missing. Is there a mechanism in place for you to go ahead and quickly send messages to the residents? So for many of you, the answer is yes, we have Nixle right now. But if you're relying solely on the people that have opted in ahead of time, we're not addressing the issue of all these residents who came here today for the event or residents from neighboring jurisdictions or municipalities. How are we capturing their information? Well, what you could do very simply is create groups and keywords that are attached to that group for that one specific event. I'm here in San Francisco. We could very easily do something like SF 4th. Please text SF 4th to 888-777. So as residents are coming down right along the Embarcadero for the 4th of July, getting ready to watch those fireworks, hey, for every single entrance to the Embarcadero, and there's really only 2, put up 2 of these digital signs that you have access to. And throw right up there, text SF 4th to 888-777. So this could be done for something major like a 4th of July where 150,000 people come to San Francisco. But also think about all these other community events that you have maybe on a weekly basis. Even smaller municipalities, especially here in the Bay Area. I live in a small suburb, 20,000 residents, but once a week, every Friday night, there's a concert. It's the summer concert series. I'm sure it's something that many of you deal with. Well, yet again, I ask you, if there is a situation that arises during that concert, be it something as simple as a cancellation, maybe there's rain. There's rain in Southern California right now, and we see all the issues that they're dealing with because there isn't a strong mechanism in place to alert the public as to what they should do. What you can do is create event-based groups and put it up on the signs all around town so that when residents and neighboring residents come in, they're really able to get that information. This is all about community engagement here. What community members want is just timely information about interests and events that they care about. Well, the sheer fact that they are attending this event means this is something they really care about. So this is something that can really help you drive your opt-in database up very quickly. An example of this, that has been well documented here at the Nixle Everbridge is the Los Angeles Lakers Championship Parade. Now, I swore 3 months ago that I would never use this example again because I, as a Warriors fan, do not like the Lakers and do not like talking about the Lakers. But since the Warriors just recently won a championship, I'm okay talking about it now. So as you can see here from these images, the Lakers celebration took place in downtown LA. If anyone has been to downtown LA, you know that it's at the intersection of about 3 major freeways, and it's very, very close to those freeways, so traffic is a nightmare. They closed off about 5 or 6 city blocks, so not only was traffic, but parking was a nightmare. So what the LAPD, in conjunction with the LASD, did was they created a Nixle group for this one event, and they publicized it with digital signage from every exit off of the 101 and the I-5 in the downtown area. They said simply, please text LA wins to 888-777. I think they got over 1 million fans who attended that event, and 10,000 fans texted and signed up. Pretty significant number, 10,000 fans. Still, only 1% of those fans actually texted in. But again, if something happens, 1 million people, it's very easy to lose sight of a child. You're not holding on to the boy's hand tight enough, he gets swept away. Well, what happens if that happens? Now, the LAPD had a mechanism in place to send out a quick text message to 10,000 people. Keep your eyes out. Keep the lookout for this little boy, 8 years old. Here's his name. If you see him, please call 911. So this is just a great way for you to utilize the technology that you have in place, not just for those, those weather updates, which are great, the traffic on the day-to-day, which is great, but there are so many other ways to really drive subscribership, and it goes back to community engagement. What does the community care about? Well, the fact that 1 million people showed up for one event, one particular interest, means they care a lot about this. So let's harness this. Let's grab these residents, put them in the Nixle system, and as a benefit to you, they stay in there. They'll stay in the system. You don't have to delete those people. You can keep them in there so that if there is another situation that arises, maybe in that downtown area, you can send a message out to those people. So that would be events or interest-specific marketing as well as a subscriber growth. The next one I have is, yet again, a community engagement focus. What do residents want more than anything when it comes to information from their local public safety entity? It's information on crime. Right? That's what residents care most about. If there is a spate of car burglaries, if larceny is an issue in the area, what is the police department, what is the city doing about it? So this particular example was given to me by Lieutenant Barton, Brendan, over at Gloucester Township, New Jersey. I asked him point blank, how are you doing it? You guys are now up to about 35% of your residents signed up for Nixle. Like, that's a great job. What are you doing? And one example he gave me that really fits the bill of understanding community engagement is this. They have about a 5-block radius, small neighborhood in, I believe, the southeast portion of Gloucester Township that has had a few BEs, breaking and entering situations lately, 4 or 5. So naturally, the residents are on edge. Now, Lieutenant Barton is part of the community response team over there. So he and his 4 officers are in charge of really understanding what the community wants. So each and every time there have been these crimes, these 4 or 5 breaking and entering situations, the officers went there, took care of the situation, answered a few questions, filed the report. The next day, Lieutenant Barton and his team actually went door to door and started handing out business cards. On the back of those business cards says, please text, and it was their zip code instead of 94109, but please text 94109 to 888-777. We will keep you apprised of the situation via Nixle. Instantly, they saw an uptick in subscribers because this is what community engagement is about for that specific municipality. The residents were scared, they did not know what was going on, and they were seeking out information from their local police department. If we can make the messaging as specific as possible to the community, down to the neighborhoods, that's where you'll get real traction. If you simply say at a high level, And this is especially applicable if anyone on the phone line is, calling in from a municipality of over 150,000 people. Sign up for Nixle, you're going to get alerts from the police department. What does that mean? A message in the southeast quadrant of San Francisco is drastically different than the neighborhood that I work in, right? So if it's something that's too high level, just sign up for alerts, you're not going to get the real traction. You have to get down to those specific incidents, events, and interests that residents really care about. So I thought this was a fantastic example as how they're really understanding what the community wants, and then they in turn are addressing it utilizing technology, right? So that's what community engagement is really all about. It's a process and it's an outcome. I think that's something to keep in mind. We hear community engagement, the term thrown around left, right, and center. Talking heads, politicians use it, and they say, what are you doing to better increase your engagement with the residents? Transparency this, transparency that. But the core of this is to understand what your residents really want to hear. So sometimes it takes that initial step, getting out there, maybe a city council meeting, getting out there, talking to a few of your civic leaders, and understanding what are those, hot topic situations that they want to hear about. And then if we can use technology, i.e. Nixle and Everbridge, to begin to relay that information, suddenly that snowball will start rolling down the hill. If we can get one good message out there, what happens? The resident sees the message, and he or she will turn that phone around and show his or her friend right away. Hey, look at this. This is what the police is sending me. Wow, that's really great. What is that? Oh, that's Nixle. What's Nixle? And all of a sudden, you see that snowball rolling down the hill. That's how true engagement takes place. It's no secret why New Jersey is one of the most densely subscribed states for Nixle Everbridge. It's because Nixle was such a prominent tool used after Hurricane Sandy. It was the only real smart and timely tool that was distributing information. So naturally the numbers grew. That was the only place that residents were getting information. So if that's the high level, let's bring it down to the local level. Can we provide information that really matters to the residents, where they in turn will show it to a loved one or a friend and say, this is what I want to receive. This is what I have. You should get it too. That's how the numbers really grow, and they really grow quickly. As an offset to that, Nixle and Everbridge will provide you that channel not only to engage your residents about the small things, but also about the larger things. Right? Eyes and ears in the community around missing people and wanted people is a great auxiliary benefit to Nixle. Right? Anytime we talk about community engagement, it's a process and an outcome. That process should also include the residents. If we can get them to help participate in the process, then it only is going to make your lives, people who use Nixle, easier. The particular example we have is there was a situation here in Oakland, right across the bay from the Everbridge Nixle office, where there was a suspect who, we won't get into the details of it, but was wanted for a crime. Oakland PD sent out a message, and very quickly, within an hour, hour and a half, a Nixle recipient, so this is a resident who had subscribed to Nixle, phoned in a tip saying, hey, this is what I know about the suspect. This is the potential location you could find him. And within 2.5 hours, they'd apprehended the suspect. That's community engagement at its finest, right? This resident wants to keep their community, his or her community, safe. He or she is willing to participate in the process, and we're just here to help facilitate that engagement. So back to kind of our initial high-level agenda, growing users, growing subscribers, how else to do it? In addition to events, in addition to interests, what you really should be doing is cross-platform marketing. So if you have a Facebook account or a Twitter account, by all means, you should be integrating that with your Nixle account. You should be sending Nixle messages to your social media accounts. If you don't have that capability, contact Nixle as soon as possible, because it's only going to save you time and energy. It makes a PIO's life so much easier if they could do everything from one platform instead of jumping around to 3. But in terms of marketing, at least once a quarter, at least once every 3 or 4 months, you should be sending out messages on Facebook, posting a message on Facebook saying, sign up for Nixle, 888-777-Nixle.com. You will receive text and email messages about, and then fill in the blank. About is so key. Do the same thing on Twitter, and then by all means, use Nixle as well to market your other platforms. We live in a very metric-driven age. We all know this. The chief comes to you and says, how is social media going? What sort of traction do you have? If you go back and say, we've added 150 followers on Facebook and another 125 on Twitter, that's great stuff, right? How many have you added on Nixle? 250. That's great stuff. So don't think of it just as growing your Nixle subscriber base. Think of this as a tool that's going to grow just your reach. Your reach when it comes to social media and community engagement. Constantly be doing cross-platform marketing, because the big thing to keep in mind, especially when you're considering Facebook and Twitter, that's my social media. I don't want to send out too many messages. I don't want to post the same message too frequently. I'll ask you this. How many Facebook friends does the average American have? The average American has about 450 to 500 Facebook friends. So if you think a message that you post on Facebook every week is too much, the strong likelihood is that most of your followers aren't seeing the message, simply because they have so many friends. And this day and age, I'll speak from experience. I see my friends getting married, so wedding pictures, I see baby pictures, and I see animal pictures. And a few of my friends love posting, food pictures as well. So a lot of the information gets lost. If you're counting on each and every one of your posts on Facebook to be seen, or all your tweets to be seen, you need to reevaluate, simply because there's just so much noise out there. So don't be shy when it comes to cross-platform marketing. Use Nixle, use Facebook, use YouTube, Twitter, use it all. Grow those numbers. It will grow organically, but sometimes it needs a little push from you. So that really wraps up the first portion of our conversation today around growing your subscriber base. Those are just 3 or 4 ideas that we have. Some have been proven very effective. Others might not be as effective for your particular agency. The key thing is, don't get down, right? It might not work the first time, but we got to keep plugging away at it. This is a process. Don't ever forget, that's a process and an outcome. Community engagement is a process. So, step 2, media relations. This portion of the conversation will be a little shorter. Quite simply, PIOs these days have so much on their plate, right? Talking on behalf of the city, the police department, about major news events. If there is a press conference, you have to run that. But oh, by the way, you have to handle social media as well. A lot going on. So what we're finding is PIOs, or any press-related officers, are finding great success utilizing the Nixle system. As you may or may not know, the basic Nixle system starts with just one large group. Well, as you grow the system, as you learn to use it and find different use cases, being able to build out a media-focused group is very valuable. So what you could do is you could build out a group within your Nixle system and import the contacts. For smaller municipalities, maybe you only have 2 or 3 contacts. For large municipalities, you might have 25, 30 contacts. Local, national, global. But what you can do is you can simply take the emails and the cell phones of all these different media contacts and plug it right into the Nixle system. How many times have you had a situation where you needed to get on the phone to speak with a reporter? He or she gets one detail wrong, calls you back up. How much time would you save if you could simply send out that email with your press release as well as posting it online all at the same time? Send. This makes it so much easier because it's going to save time, and will also ensure that none of those words that could potentially get muddled on a phone. One little detail like the situation is control. Did I say under control? Not under control? Things like that make a big difference in a news story. So if you're able to leverage a system that gets that information out there quickly, as well as in your words, accurately, that could be a very powerful tool for you. Right. More and more people that work with police departments specifically, and I'm talking about more and more media credentials that work with police departments these days, care about really one thing, and that's getting the story out there quickly. Not always are they worried about having it done accurately. They very frequently want to be first. They want to be first because they know if we get hits on our website, that's what we're getting paid on. So if we're able to leverage this situation, which used to be a negative, that used to be a very difficult thing for public safety to overcome because accuracy in the message was not always the highest priority. It was always speed. That was a difficult thing to overcome. How can we make that a positive? Well, if we know that they care most about speed instead of accuracy, we know that they're simply going to take our message, copy it, and paste it, right? So how about we go ahead and use a system and we let them know well ahead of time. All my media contacts are in Nixle, and this is an example that I pull from a working relationship we have with Perth Amboy PD in New Jersey. Captain insisted that all his media contacts go into a Nixle group. And Perth Amboy is about 10 miles south of New York City. So right along the water, 10 miles south of New York City. It got hammered by Sandy, made national news. Right along the boardwalk, they've done a great job of revitalizing that area. He insists that all the media contacts be in one group so he can send out press releases that way. And he also lets the media contacts know, you're all in this group. So I know that there's going to be accuracy in this message. Cannot change it. It will be posted online. And if you have any questions, you can call me. But all your competitors will have your message up right away. So now what he's doing and what more and more of our agencies are doing, using this concept of the press wanting to get the message out there quickly, almost to our advantage, to his advantage. Send that message out to everybody. They simply take that message, copy it, post it online. Now it's your words in front of the residents instead of some hypothetical situation or some situation that really has nothing to do with what you initially relayed to the press. The final example we'll give today as to how to really increase the usage of your Nixle system is team coordination, or what we call internal communication. So I throw up this slide initially. At any point in your process today, do you use a phone tree? Good old phone tree. The chief's assistant calls the two deputy chiefs, who have in turn call the shift commanders, and then they in turn call everyone down at the patrol level. All right, we need to fill a detail. Does this happen at all? From the moment that the chief tells the chief's assistant to the moment that that patrol officer picks up the phone and says, you know what, I want that detail, could be 30 minutes, could be 2 hours. If this exists at all, at any part of your process today, we really should reconsider what internal communication means to your department. Everyone who works for the police department, and I'm willing to bet 99% of people that work for City Hall have a cell phone. It's the most ubiquitous tool in the United States right now is a cell phone. There are more cell phone accounts, more active cell phone accounts than there are residents in the United States. That's right. There's like 400 million cell phone accounts and like 350 million residents because some people have 2 cell phones. So why are we still doing something that is incredibly outdated when you have in your possession a tool that will make your and everyone else in your department's life easier? Team coordination is as simple as taking the contacts in your department, putting them in Nixle so that if some situation arises, you have a tool to go ahead and send out a text message. Right? Details. I need a detail filled. SWAT callouts. SWAT callouts are a particularly interesting example because frequently for smaller municipalities, 1 or 2 of your officers are part of the local SWAT detail. So what happens right now if we need a SWAT team? Do we need to pick up the phone, call chief to chief, say, hey, I need Sergeant Loomis for this particular detail? Well, that takes a few minutes. What if the chief is at lunch or in a meeting? Is there a faster mechanism in place? The answer is yes. Do you have you have access to it right now? So it's all about just finding the holes in the process. So we've initially discussed the holes in getting residents to sign up. Now we're talking about the holes in your internal process. I think we've identified a few of them. Let's begin to patch them up with the same tool that you guys have had access to this entire time. So with that, a deep breath. I thank everybody for their time today. I'm going to turn it back over to Jessica. Jess, I think this is your turn to take some Q&A.
Thank you so much, Brian. All right, so at this time, we are going to open it up to questions. As a reminder, you can submit your questions by typing your question into the open text field in the questions panel on your screen and submitting it to all panelists. Our first question comes from James in the audience. When you send out a message, can residents reply back?
James, that's a fantastic question, and one of the issues would be, right, if you're looking for a missing child, being able to respond back. The answer is yes. As part of the Nixle Engage system, you're able to send out a text message. The resident receives the text message, and they can immediately, in their text window, text their response back to you, hit send, and instantaneously, Nixle will send you, as the administrator, an alert saying you have received a response from your resident. So the answer is yes. The shorter answer is absolutely yes. The long answer is yes, and thereafter, you're able to communicate. You're able to have a continuous communication between yourself and this person who sent in the text message.
Our next question comes from Andy. Are the messages that are published to social networks archived?
Yes, Andy, that's a fantastic question, and I'm very glad you brought that up. One of the items and one of the issues that public safety is having right now is around OPRA laws. So each and every time you push out a Facebook post or a Twitter message, it should be recorded and archived because it can be referenced in a future case, a legal dispute, if you will. So there aren't too many people who really recognize the importance of this, because if a lawyer comes knocking on your door 6 months from now referencing one particular tweet on July 21st, you should be able to pull it up. Nixle archives all messages going back indefinitely. Now, we can't make it available to you on a drop of a dime, but we can find the message and we can pull it. They all are archived, yes.
Our next question is from Kathy. You spoke about business cards being handed out to residents. Does Nixle have any products that can be supplied to the police departments to be handed out with the information?
Oh, that's a great question, Kathy. So within your Nixle system, under the support tab, there is an endless slew of marketing materials. We've built out door hangers, utility bill inserts. We have our logo in there. You are free to use the logo and put it on your material. What I suggest is taking our material, adding your particular patch or badge to it, and then presenting it to your residents that way. It suddenly looks like a joint partnership between the police department and Nixle to really introduce this concept of Nixle to those residents who are unfamiliar with it. So check your support tab within your Nixle account. If you don't have a Nixle account yet, feel free to reach out to Jessica or myself, and we can line you up with one as soon as possible.
Our next question is from Ashley. Our agency contracts with 32 different county sheriff's office and state police. Would we need to have a designated administrator from each county, or would we act as a single hub?
It's a unique situation you have there. The answer is it's really up to you. There are frequent situations, and I don't want to target your specific case too specifically on this webinar, but for everyone, think of it this way, especially if you're calling in from a municipality. If you represent the police department, there will also be situations where the city hall, as well as Department of Public Works and Parks and Rec will also want to share your system. So now that we've kind of leveled the playing field, there will be situations where multiple departments, be it across county or municipal lines or within the same municipality, will want to share a system. There are pros and cons for having one administrator speaking on behalf of all these different agencies, or or giving 30 different people access to the same account. My typical suggestion is each agency or department have their own system. Now, granted, for the particular example that Jess referenced, if there are multiple counties within a state sharing an account, you can target geographically. But what I find to be the most successful way of deploying a system is to try to get as localized or as granular as possible. Each county should have their own system, and we could set it up so that there is an overarching, lack of a better term, God-level authority or administrator who can see everything. But for the actual publications of the message, it is advisable to have each county, and then also for our other example, each department within each municipality having their own Nixle account. It's easier that way. We'll put it that way.
Our next question comes from Amanda in the audience. Can residents reply to messages with images?
I believe they can right now. I need to double check with my colleague Alex. Alex, can residents reply to text messages with an image? Yeah, the answer is yes. I'm very happy I got that right.
Here's a follow-up question from Kathy. Just so I understand, if a resident sends their zip code in a text message to 888-777, they will automatically be signed up for Nixle.
That is 100% correct, Kathy. Where Nixle is unique is if they send in their text message, they're agreeing to receive public safety messages. So it isn't just they're signing up for one department. They're signing up for any public safety agency that has jurisdiction over that zip code. So we're talking about if I send in 94109, I will receive public safety messages from the San Francisco Police Department, the San Francisco Office of Emergency Management, and the California Highway Patrol. They have jurisdiction over this area. The nice thing about that is it makes it easier for the resident. They don't have to sign up for 3 different things. If we're talking about, apples to apples, if I wanted to sign up for, Facebook, I would have to sign up for the San Francisco PD's Facebook page, the San Francisco OEM's Facebook page, as well as the CHP's Facebook page. What we're trying to do is make this system as easy as possible for you as well as the resident. That's the benefit for the resident. The benefit for public safety is, Kathy, if you are speaking on behalf of the state and you're coming into Nixle maybe 6 months after the program has started at the municipal or county level, there's a strong likelihood that there are residents who are already signed up to receive public safety messages because they've heard of Nixle from some of these counties that started before you. All those residents will bubble up to the state level because the state has jurisdiction over every zip code within the state. So I hope that makes sense. It sounded a little convoluted once I said it, but the answer is yes. All they have to do is text their zip code to receive Nixle public safety messages.
Our next question is from Max in the audience. What options are there for automatic messages from Nixle? I know you have them for the National Weather Service. Are there other options, FEMA, for example?
So at this point, that is the only option we have for automated messaging. Is just what we're doing currently with at the NWS. For the FEMA side of the house, you can initiate messages via the iPause system. But at this point, that's the extent of our automated messaging.
Next question from Sarah. How many keywords can you create, or is there a limit?
Right now, we limit it to about 25 keywords. That number is very fluid. If you're using keywords properly and you come back to the Nixle team and say, I need some more keywords, we will be accommodating of you.
Another question from Amanda. Is there a limit on how many event-based groups you can create?
Great question, Amanda. The answer is no. You can have an unlimited number of groups. I caution you, though, if everyone here is familiar with the Nixle system, it can get a touch messy if you have too many groups. So what you very easily could do is, let me scroll back a few slides to the events. You can have a primary group that would be events, and then you can build subgroups underneath it that are the events itself. That way it doesn't become too cluttered in your system. These are things that we can absolutely train you on. We have a professional services team that will absolutely sit down with you, help you design your system how you envision it, and then maybe tweak it if it's a little rough around the edges, clean it up a bit so that it makes the most sense and it's easy to use.
Another question coming from Kathy. Is there any way to schedule a message to publish at a future time?
Great question, Kathy. The answer is yes. As part of our Nixle Engage system, at the very bottom of your publishing interface, you will have the ability to schedule a message to be distributed at a later time.
Next question from John. Is there any way to add Spellcheck to the system?
I'll make sure I go talk to the developers for you, John. That's one of the reasons I don't do too many actual demos in the interface, because I'm always, nervous I'm going to spell something wrong. Like police. That'd be terrible if I spelled police wrong on a demo with the police department. So that's something I'll make sure I relay over to the developers right after our call today.
Another question coming from Christopher. How do I register my existing Nixle account to transmit automated weather alerts?
This is something that we would take offline, Christopher. It's part of the Nixle Engage system. So you would need to speak to a representative over here at Nixle to get you bumped up to the next product level. So feel free to email Jessica. I think there's an email associated with this webinar, and she'll put you in touch with the right person over here to start that process.
Craig, I saw your question about getting the entire presentation on file, and you will be able to receive it. Just look out for an email from Nixle within the next coming days. It'll have a link to a YouTube recording of the entire presentation, and as well a link to download the slides as a PDF. All right, well, that's all the time we have today for questions. Thank you so much for participating, and Brian, thank you for a great webinar. Again, the slides will be available to you to download as well as to watch the video. Just look out for an email from Nixle within the next coming days. Thank you again, everyone.